Hi, Ray. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Alicia. Thank you so much for having me on Witnesses, man. I appreciate it, and thank you for
Beautiful.
noticing my mangoes as they present
Yeah.
themselves. Looking forward to our conversation.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. That's a good one. And thank you for being on the show. And you see, oftentimes, all right, I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this all the time because I feel like it is important. And even according to a scientific study, they discovered that when you give positive feedback to people, it increases and enhances their work. They get to do even more better. And that's one of the reasons why I appreciate my guests. So I want to thank you, Ray, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, I was on that road some months back, Ray, and by the roadside, all right, there was this tall mango tree, and I didn't find it attractive. It didn't catch my attention. Why? Because it's got no mangoes on it, and it looks all dry, and I just walked past it because nah, it ain't attractive at all. But you see, just recently, I was on that same road, Ray, and this time around, something changed. A lot of things changed about the tree. You see, it caught my attention from a distance pretty good, and I got the urge to move closer, to have a good look. And when I got closer, oh man, it wowed me because it's got a lot of mangoes on it now, and not just mangoes, but ripe mangoes, So it made it look so attractive and beautiful. And now in my mind, I was like, now you're talking mango. Now you're talking mango tree. It's a beautiful one. The point is, the fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are, that has made it very impossible for me to skip you. You see, I found what you're doing attractive and what you're doing impact and your understanding and your philosophies. I found all of these things interesting. And that's why it became very impossible to say nope and not have you on the show. So thank you for investing in yourself, and I truly appreciate it. And thank you for being on the show too. Thank you so very much, Ray.
Hey, thank you. I'd like to reflect that thanks right back to you as well, right? And the positive feedback for what you're doing for yourself and your community and your audience. Having these conversations with folks are fantastic. It allows all of us in the audience to be introspective. Not only to listen to what the guests are saying and what you're saying, Alicia, as well, but to bring that back into our lives and have these kind of internal conversations with our heads within
Mm,
our head about articulating to ourselves what it is that's most important for us, and that's the key to I think a successful life filled with joy and a peace of mind and happiness, right? So thank you so
right.
much for everything you do. Appreciate it.
Beautiful, man. Yeah, that's the key. That's the key. I got that. So let's get started. You see, Ray, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. All right. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking, because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful world, Ray, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, Ray, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Ray on the show is for the sake of the listeners. Ray, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of information flying out there, how to do this and how to do that and how to become this and how to become that. So these folks trust me for quality information, and I am totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Ray, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. We are just so curious right now. We want to know how you got here. And afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Ray,
Great.
over to you.
All righty. Thank you so much. Audience, my name is Ray Hartjen. I'm a writer and a musician who is based out of Southern California. Alicia and I started corresponding about, looking at life's obstacles with a growth mindset, right? And, Alicia, in the introduction that you just gave just moments ago, you talked about a lot of really, I think, important things. You talked about the darkness and the chaos, and you talked about information and misinformation as well, right? And, it's one of the things that I think is, maybe a part of the human condition. If you think back, Alicia, when you were a child, you weren't out consciously set to learn. I want to learn, right? You just did because everything was, a learning experience, particularly very early in your life. You approached things with a beginner's attitude because you didn't know, right? And there was this wonderment of learning. But then as we get a little bit older, we start thinking that we know everything, that my learning has stopped. You become a teenager and I know the entire world. And now we have so much information coming at us. There's just a flood of things that many times we don't have time. We feel as though we don't have the time to look at things with the beginner's attitude and explore. We're frequently, as humans, guilty of forming an opinion by looking at a headline of a news story, just the headline, and going, okay, now I'm educated about a particular topic. That's ridiculous, right? We as a society even have an acronym, TL::DR. Too long, didn't read. Like, since when is that a legitimate excuse, man? Come on, it's too long. I didn't read. It doesn't make any sense. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today was looking at things from a beginner's attitude, a growth mindset, right? And that wonderment of learning. The most poignant story that I have is a personal story of mine. In 2019, in March of 2019, I was diagnosed with a blood cancer called multiple myeloma. And for those of you who are unaware of what multiple myeloma is, don't feel bad because I didn't know what it was either until I was diagnosed with it 5 months ago. It's an incurable blood cancer, but it is treatable. As I was approaching my fight with cancer, I just had this kind of like conscious thought in my head about an exercise that I used to facilitate in training courses. And I facilitated this exercise with hundreds of people, but I decided to actually use it on myself. And it's a simple timeline exercise. So Alicia and audience members out there, as you're listening, just in your mind, draw a horizontal line from left to right. And then on your far left-hand side of that line, a little tick mark. And then on the far right-hand side of that line, another tick mark. And that left-hand tick mark, you can just write the letter B. That's your birth. And of course, you know what's coming next. The tick mark on the right-hand side, you can mark D. That's your death. And then the introspective part is, take a moment and think, where do you believe? The future's uncertain. Tomorrow's not promised. But where do you believe you are? Where do you really in your soul kind of believe you are on your timeline? And draw a little tick mark. And so, Alicia, when I was facilitating this exercise, in the past years, I would just kind of haphazardly throw my line right in the middle. I was halfway. I was going to live forever anyway, but, at least to be 100 or something. And, upon my diagnosis, I begin to articulate in my head, it's like, I'm probably a lot further to the right than I thought I was yesterday. And as that's the case, what does that really mean for me? And what it meant for me was that, I felt as though I had taken time for granted. And I don't think I'm special in that respect. I think it's kind of a part of the human condition. You kind of take tomorrow for granted and next week. And for me, Alicia, I was taking next month for granted, next year for granted. In some instances, I was taking next decades for granted. And so I was guilty of having this thought run through my head that someday I'm going to ... But when's that day going to come, right? And so that timeline exercise for me led me to, forming this little motto for myself, and that is, if not now, when, right? I can think about like one day I'm going to ... but if not now, when's that going to be? What are the things that I want to do? But then I took my thinking just to one more further level. And I thought, well, I'm taking time for granted. How does that really manifest itself other than maybe procrastinating on some of these things I want to do? And what I recognized was that the way it was presenting itself with me, that it was also harming my relationships and the people that I care and love most about. Why? Because I was kind of taking them for granted too, because I was taking time for granted. So, if I love my dear friend Alicia, right? And I'm thinking about, I can connect today, but if I'm taking time for granted, I can just take, I can reach out tomorrow, next week, next month, or whatever. So for me, articulating this in my head is, like taking time for granted. How that impacting myself is that I'm taking people and relationships for granted. I wanted to change things around. That's one of the things I wanted to talk with you today about and get into your audience is, the place that we find our happiness, our sense of inner peace is by doing the things that are most important to us with the people that are most important to us. And it's all that other stuff that doesn't really matter. The stuff that we just get inundated with emails and, Instagram feeds and blah, 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 all this other stuff. What is it that you want to do? And who do you want to do it with? And for me, it really took an introspective exercise based on the cancer diagnosis, something that I write about in my second book. It's a memoir entitled Me, Myself, and My Multiple Myeloma. I like to think of it as a lot more than just a cancer book. It's a living book. And it's one of those things that my cancer fight, my cancer journey has awoken within me and has helped me to live a more productive life and certainly more satisfying.
Amazing, Ray. You see, I've got to say this. You are a very great man. I love your spirit, man. You see, the way you are dishing out those important words, it's very important. And the fact that you do not allow your circumstances dictate your personality, it means a whole lot. And I love your spirit. I really do. But I've got a
Thank you.
question, man. So,
I appreciate it.
yeah. So, can you share with us how has it been, living with cancer, the issue with the blood stuff? How has the journey been? And can you share some of those things with us?
Yeah, it's a continuing struggle, a continuing fight, but nobody ever said this was going to be easy. We all get something and we all have obstacles thrown in front of our paths, challenges thrown in front of our paths. And I really do believe that you can choose your attitude when you approach it. And I'm not saying my attitude is always positive. There's times, I get down. What's great, is that I'm surrounded by people who care about me and love me and look to pull me up. And one of the messages that I have out there for folks is that if you know anybody going through like a serious health issue or a chronic health issue, reach out and help them. They're gonna need your help and you're gonna feel good about helping them. We're all in this together. None of us get out of it alive. It takes a village, it takes a community, and we have a global community. And, reach out and help those people. I have been helped by a great many people. And that's why, I want to help others. I feel good. I feel strong. And if there's somebody out there that needs a helping hand to be pulled forward, by golly, I want to be that person. Some of the ways that I've matured and I think I've grown, through my diagnosis 5 years ago is, now I'm much more service centered and lead by the heart. I'm much less, I like to think I'm much less selfish and I want to be selfless. It's, one of the honors of my life, Alicia, has been connecting with people around the world like you through this second book of mine, Me, Myself, and My Multiple Myeloma. I've shipped copies to New Zealand, to South Africa. I've shipped them to Eastern Europe. Just last month, I made connections with a handful of patients in Iran, and I love the fact that we can go past and beyond geopolitical differences, religious differences, all that stuff, and just get to the human to human connection. We are all so similar. We're people, man. We're humans. And we're all so similar. And let's get down to that base similarity of ours. And, how can you help it? So for me, yeah, cancer's been it was an all-consuming thought in my head upon diagnosis. So first thing I woke up thinking about, the last thing I thought about before I went to bed, and then I thought about it many times in between. But, it's an important part of my life, but it's not my entire life, right? And so I've learned to be able to incorporate it into it. And what are the benefits? Really, there are. Cancer has added to my life. I'm a cancer patient advocate, cancer patient fundraiser. I'm an advocate for caregivers. All these are new roles for me, new accountabilities, new goals and objectives associated with them. And they've, like I said, it's been some of the most rewarding work I've done in my life.
Amazing. And you see, your book sounds like a great read. So, there might be some folks who are also interested in publishing books. So what is the process for getting a book published? Can you share some with us?
I can, and the first thing is you need to write your book. And a lot of people have a story in their head and that they want to tell, and they think it's going to be a good book, but they don't get started on it. Who knows why? But that's when you need to grab yourself and say, if not now, when? Write your book. And it's not as daunting as you think. Books are smaller and smaller and smaller. A nonfiction book now, 60,000 words, 70,000 words, 80,000 words. If you write 500 words a day, you can get a book done in a half a year. And 500 words is not a lot. So I think a lot of people, a lot of potential writers, they start thinking, well, geez, it's going to take all this time to write this great book. No, you can write a great book with just spending like 30, 40 minutes a day on it. And you'll have it done within a half a year. So that's aspect number one. And number two, there's lots of ways that you can go to market in publishing a book. So think about which one's best for you. But know this, as a potential writer, you are going to be responsible for promoting your book and marketing your book. A big publishing company like Simon & Schuster, they'll publish over 20,000 nonfiction books a year. They can promote 4 or 5 a month. And if your name is Michelle Obama, yeah, you can probably, you get helped out. Stephen King, yes. But if your name's Ray Hartjen or somebody like me, you're going to need to promote your book. So keep that in mind. But there's tons of avenues from self-publishing to traditional publishing to something in between, like hybrid publishing. But really, nowadays, it's all kind of hybrid publishing. And the key aspect of it is that you, as the writer, need to be the author entrepreneur. You need to be able to promote your book. So write your book, consider which publishing source is the best way of doing it, and then, establish those communities and those relationships and get people to understand what you've written about and how it's going to add value to them.
Great tips. I got that. Right? That's a beautiful one. So how did you develop your passion for the Indy 500 in particular and motorsports in general? Can you talk to us about
Yeah.
that?
Thank you so much. So, my 4th book is coming up. It's being published by Morgan James Publishing. It will be made available in May of 2025. It's called the Indy 500, a year-long quest to win the greatest spectacle in racing. So, Alicia, how I got turned on to the Indy 500 was here in America, we have these little tiny catalogs called Scholastic America. And they come out, your teacher gets them. And your teacher then, this is like in elementary school, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. They get this catalog and they pass it out to you. And, you choose these books. They're usually discounted heavily. And you choose these books, you go home, you collect some money, give them to your teacher. Your teacher places the order, and a month later, your books come. And it's like a great day in the class because you get these little treasures are handed out to you, all the books that you wanted. And years ago, I read a book called The Indy 500 30 Days in May. I got it from the Scholastic America catalog. And it was a chronicle of the 1970 Indy 500. From the day the track opened to practice on May 1st to the running of the race on May 30th. And as a kid, reading that book just captivated my imagination. It was these race car drivers, these daring, daredevils, really. Back in the day, it wasn't uncommon for serious accidents and crashes that, orthopedic injuries, burns, and deaths were not uncommon, and so they were kind of like astronauts in a way, and then all the preparation that went into, qualifying for the race and running the race, it just captured my imagination. I read that book and reread that book over and over, 3-4 times a year. I'd be riding my bicycle around thinking I was a race car driver as this little kid. And for years and years and years, I wanted to rewrite that book. And make it, for an updated race. And again, thinking about if not now, when? If not now, when? How about now? So what I did was wrote a book about the running of the 2024 Indy 500. It starts with the last laps of the 2023 race, and then goes through the entire year of preparation from the teams and drivers to then qualify for the race, run the race that ran this last May. So it's a book I'm excited about. It's been a passion since I read that book. I had the pleasure of living in Indianapolis for a while, so I got to actually go to the track for the first time as a kid. And then I've been a season or a race ticket holder for over 40 years now. So it's I know it's not for everybody, the Indy 500, but it is for me. And I love going there every year with, it's nearly 40,000 people, 400,000 people attend the race every year. So it's a just one day sporting event in the world. So thanks for asking. It's like I said, it's not for everybody, but it is for me.
Wow, 400,000. That's a lot, man. Well, that's interesting. And I love that. So the last question, what is your advice for people who have been recently diagnosed with a serious health condition?
Yeah, you're not in it alone. There are other people like you. And whether you've participated in groups in the past or not, just know that there's people out there willing to help. I'm willing to help. Reach out to me. My name is Ray Hartjen. That's how you can hit me on all social media platforms. It's my name. You can reach me at my website, rayhartjen.com. Know that you're not alone. Know that I'm here with you. I know I personally find a great deal, a source of strength, knowing not that there's people behind me in my fight for cancer, but that there's people alongside me in my fight for cancer. And I think there's a big difference there. Just know that I'm alongside you. Know that there's others that want to be alongside you. Know that you are not just what your diagnosis is. That is part of your identity, but you are a whole person. And when you think about your whole person, think about your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and think about, what you can do to leverage those things that are strong for you to lift up those areas that might be weaker. Right. So know that you are more than you might think you are. Know that you're not in this alone, that there's others with you, and know that ultimately you are stronger than you know. You've got this. And I, for one, am here to fight alongside you.
Powerful words from the amazing Ray. I got that.
Thanks.
That's a very powerful one. Okay, and I'm going to take that as a final thought. So for folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about these things we've talked about, how can that be possible?
Yeah, my email address is Ray Hart. My last name is spelled Hartjen. My email address is rayhartjen@gmail.com, and every social platform out there that I'm on, my handle is my name. So by all means, feel if there's anything that I can do for you, if I can be of service to you in any way, it's the honor of my life to do so. So, please reach out to me. It'd be my honor.
Beautiful. So that's going to be the end of the show, Ray. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing these amazing words with us. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you.
Thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate you, appreciate witnesses, and I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you.
That was a beautiful